We're gonna give it a good old-fashioned 13-second try today, Will.
Good old-fashioned reach around.
Yeah. You know what you can't do in 13 seconds is a podcast, because it would just be a commercial. And we're already running over for 13 seconds. That's how quickly it should move. Anyway, I'm Brendan Perna here with Will Keys, and we got three coaching choices narrowed down for the Broncos. We're going to talk about that today, which guys we like, how everybody on the internet doesn't know a damn thing about coaches, and how painful it was to see the Chiefs maybe beat the Bills. Today's episode brought to you by Draftkings Sportsbook. Make sure you use code DNVR when you sign up. And, of course, my coffee company, benchwarmerbrew.com. Got a football hangover because the Chiefs bested the storybook Bills? We'll cure it with some organic, ethically sourced craft coffee. benchwarmerbrew.com. If you want to make sure you're supporting me and not Will at all, you buy my coffee. You buy my coffee.
That goes all right, the coffee money funnels right into the not Will fund.
Mm-hmm. Now, Will, let's talk about the Broncos coaches in a second, because I was live streaming during the Chiefs-Bills game. I really live vicariously through the Bills in the postseason. I'm learning that's a dangerous team to bet on.
It's a good way to get your heart broken.
Yeah, good way to get my heart broken. But sounds like you were taking it pretty hard. Sounds like you were a little more emotionally involved in that game than you imagined.
Yeah, I think I was rooting for the Bills like they were the Broncos for a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I tried to stay even-headed. I was very even during the earlier game, the Bucs-Rams game. And obviously I was rooting for the Rams.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the Chiefs are my Tom Brady, personally. And I don't like Tom Brady. Let's
that's fair.
Get that squared away. But no, as the game went on,
it's like choosing between, it's like, do I like having diarrhea more or vomiting more? They both, you don't like either, but you're probably, depending on your personality, you're going to pick one over the other.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to pick diarrhea because then at least you can sit down and be on your phone for the duration of that.
Well, it depends on how serious it is, Will.
Depends how serious. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. But yeah, after the Mecole Hardman touchdown, I was like, okay. I tweeted it. I tweeted the Bills are not a serious team.
I saw that.
And I felt like that. It felt like this was, okay, this is going to be just a replay of the AFC Championship game last year. The Chiefs are going to pull away. There's no point in getting invested in the rest of this game. And then one play later, Josh Allen goes 75 yards to Gabriel Davis. We've got a game. We have one of the best back and forths of all time. Buffalo inexplicably decides, okay, we're going to kick a touchback. We're going to give them the full 13 seconds. They've got 3 timeouts. We're going to play like we're up 4 for some reason instead of 3. They were doing like the picket fence defense, which does not work if the other team can tie the game with a field goal. So that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Maybe they were playing for overtime. That might explain it. Maybe they were just happy to get out of regulation without allowing a last-second touchdown from the Chiefs. But I just want to say totally heartbreaking. Very heartbreaking. Exhilarating, but as much of a letdown as it was, a roller coaster ride of a football game.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that game made me feel was like this sense of despair, knowing how good of a quarterback you have to compete in the AFC.
Oh yeah, dude. Like thinking about freaking Burrow to Herbert. Those are the low end guys currently, and then
Yeah,
it's Josh Allen and Mahomes, and it's just like, oh god, it was like the first half of that game. I was like, man, Mahomes is playing the best quarterback I've seen all season or best postseason. And then the second half, I was like, no, Josh Allen's playing the best quarterbacking I've seen
exactly.
all postseason. And rewatching today, like the couple of the runs Mahomes had stuck out in that, like he's looking to pass, and then he wiggles his way out of pressure and then just takes off. It was really impressive. And then Josh Allen on that 2-point conversion, he almost took like a 17-yard loss before he like came back around and then found Gabe Davis in the back of the end zone. It was just insanity. And the reason I was live streaming and it was pretty cool because so many people were watching. It was just kind of crazy. But so like I was in a good mood regardless. But the thing I took away from it is like Josh Allen's going to be around for a while. And I think anybody who had questions about how good he is, like that's gone. Even though the Buffalo Bills lost, his last drive, less than a minute to score a touchdown to take back the lead, that's as legendary of a drive as you can have. Like John Elway's whole career and mystique started on a 98-yard drive where the Broncos had 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Right.
The NFL's different, obviously, now because you're not allowed to actually play defense in the final 2 minutes of a football game. It's prohibited. So, like, I don't know what either team was doing defensively those last two series, but it was just insane quarterbacking. And I was like, man, Josh Allen's just as good as Mahomes. And the week before we were debating on like which guy would you want. It was like, this is so close. It just like confirmed it. And since I was live streaming during that game, I found myself more emotionally involved in the Rams game, which surprised me. And it was one because, yes, I really, really wanted to see Tom Brady lose. But I found myself pulling so hard for Von Miller and even Matthew Stafford that I was like, man, I am a bigger Rams fan than I thought right now because I wanted to see it, but also because that game almost fell apart in the most classic Tom Brady fashion where all of a sudden, literally everything goes his way. Everything. Yeah. And none of it was
Brady
Matthew
was even
Stafford's
missing wide open guys on fourth down.
Yeah.
Like Brady was, metaphorically speaking, he was fumbling away opportunities while the Rams, they had Crisco on the ball. They were literally fumbling away opportunities or, just snapping the ball 20 yards past the quarterback too. That game, it felt like, Cam Akers fumbles at the end of the first half and you go, damn, that's a bad sign because it's a matter of, when, not if the Buccaneers are going to lead a comeback. And all you can do is just hope that you've padded yourself enough with a good sizable lead. Turns out the Rams had just enough. Plus they got a really, really clutch throw from Stafford at the end. And obviously that was the difference maker. But I mean, two incredible games, 4 really, really good games. I thought the Saturday games were entertaining games. I thought not as high scoring, obviously not entertaining in the, modern sense of the word, but just hard fought games.
Yeah.
And,
the Bengals game was fun. It was like a game where you got 9 sacks on one side.
It's fun to watch.
3 picks. You're like, man, a lot of shit's happening. And that's fun defensive football. It's not like just 3 and out versus 3 and out versus 3 and out. It's like, oh, things are happening. Sacks,
they're
there's
making
picks,
plays,
there's all that stuff. With the Rams, my takeaway there was like the defensive front can be so dominant for LA that if push comes to shove in a Super Bowl against the Chiefs, I feel like they can get it done. The question, like, I don't know with how the Rams secondary is going to match up with all of the Chiefs players, but if you can get to Mahomes and actually like tackle him, which the Bills were not able to do, maybe they stand a chance. And that game was like the whole idea, you know, that there are forces working outside of our understanding to guide Tom Brady to Super Bowls, whether it's Satan or God. It was like the devil was giving him chance after chance, but Tom Brady's finally like just a little bit too old and he just couldn't make it happen.
Yeah.
It was like,
here's
a Cooper Kupp fumble, and they settle for what? Did they settle for a field goal after the Cooper Kupp fumble? It's like, well, okay, well, here's another Cam Akers fumble. Here, I'm going to fumble it over Matthew Stafford. It's like, damn it, Tom, this is the devil. I need you to convert one of these opportunities.
Yeah, Matt Gay was the first kicker since like the 1970s to be short on a 47-yarder.
Yeah.
Like just stuff that never happens anymore.
I mean,
went Tom Brady's way.
I would say the bad snap rarely happens, but we obviously saw that happen in Super Bowl 48. We saw it happen last year to the Steelers. But
it is all too common. But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say, like, it just hammers home the point that good is not good enough anymore.
No.
You have to have an exceptional talent at quarterback.
Yep.
Which is why the Broncos need to take a swing on Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, or draft a quarterback with your first pick. You have to take a big swing.
Yeah.
There's no more Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, Jimmy Garoppolo. It's just not going to cut it anymore. And furthermore,
as Jimmy Garoppolo got the win against Aaron Rodgers. Bizarre.
Yeah. But it's not. But like, you know, that's
the anomaly. That's the anomaly.
It is the anomaly. It is the exception that proves the rule.
Dude, I was thinking what you just said. I was literally thinking about like 10 minutes before the podcast when I was finishing up my workout, which by the way, I thought I strained a muscle in my leg. Turns out I just have a giant ingrown hair on my inner thigh.
That's gotta be pretty big then.
Like, this really hurts. And then I like pulled my shirt. I was like, oh, it's just a fucking hair. But anyway, continue. I really derailed your thoughts there.
No, I thought that was pertinent to the conversation. Another thing stuck out to me, and that's that Sean McDermott got bounced last night. That means the 4 remaining head coaches are Zach Taylor, Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay. What do they all have in common? All 4 are offensive head coaches.
Yeah, I think the Broncos, something like that.
The Broncos have narrowed it down to 3 head coaches per sources. You got Dan Quinn. He's a defensive head coach. Nathaniel Hackett. He's now available as the Packers have been eliminated from the postseason. He is an offensive head coach, offensive coordinator, non-play calling. Another non-play calling offensive coordinator, Kevin O'Connell. His team is still in the playoffs. His scheme and his game plan were excellent against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers had one job, and that was to cover Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Kupp was still getting wide open in the most crucial junctures of the game.
Yeah,
I think that's really impressive.
You think that guy can get Jerry Jeudy open?
I think Jerry Jeudy is going to become a top flight wide receiver with the right coach.
I think Cooper Kupp is probably an amazing route runner, and I've heard Aqib Talib talk about him. I think Jerry Jeudy is probably on par with that. And I think the fact that we had a shit offensive coordinator, that's where it really showed in terms of, one, the bad QB retreads, And also, like, what's our off? How are you not scheming better plays for all of these skill players? So I think you're totally right. And that's exactly what I tweeted earlier today. It's not that they're just head coaches. It's their head coaches and they're calling plays. And Andy Reid, I know Eric Bieniemy calls plays, but it's like everything is filtered through Andy Reid. And he's worked with Bieniemy long enough where he trusts him. The question becomes like, and you brought up the point, I think it was last week in the podcast, I think, which I also tweeted out, was like, if a guy like Dan Quinn comes in as your head coach and you find a great offensive coordinator and it's working out really, really well, that guy's going to be the next hot head coaching candidate, and you have to worry about replacing him. And if you've got Nathaniel Hackett, who's your head coach, and he's calling the plays, you can get by. If it's O'Connell and he's calling the plays, you can get by with bringing in other young guys, because there's going to be talent there. But if that main guy is the piece, that's a huge thing you don't have to replace every year. When everybody wants to poach your freaking coaches, like the Rams, the 49ers, the Packers, like all these teams are going to have to deal with moving forward. The Bills right now, it's like the worst part about having a good team that's really well coached is all of those guys are going to be going away.
Yeah, you become an offensive coordinator factory.
Yeah.
Which is okay if the system is permanent with the right head coach.
Yeah, exactly. You want the system.
If you have a hot offensive coordinator and a defensive minded head coach, you become the 2016 Atlanta Falcons. Where you have good players, your offense is going to be good going forward, but you're not going to like consistently be top 5.
No.
Which is the goal.
Yeah. And I think that was my orders. Like, I want Hackett, I want O'Connell, and then I want Quinn. I'll be fine with any of them. Obviously, a lot of teams think very highly of Dan. Before I get in that, DraftKings Sportsbook coming right at your face. 4 teams remain in the NFL playoffs. You know those teams. We just talked about them mostly. And if you want to bet on them this championship weekend, do it through DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. And right now, because they got Super Bowl 56, they're giving new customers 56-1 odds on any team. Bet $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. And if you're not a new customer, guess what? You can experience the conference championship with same-game parlays. Just hope Joe Burrow doesn't throw 2 yards short of you needing $350 in your you needing 350 yards in your parlay, which happened to me this weekend. Combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code DNVR. DNVR, that is code DNVR. You just got to put it in one time and get 56-1 odds on any NFL game. Bet, or any NFL team. Bet just $5 and win $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code DNVR for 56-1 odds. DraftKings Sportsbook, which is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-522-4700. Okay. So, I think you and I, we both talked up Dan Quinn. All right. We think he's probably a good option for head coach.
He's a stabilizing force. He's a good leader. He's competent.
You're competent. What I have learned is I'm swayed by whatever is the most recent piece of information I consume about the coach.
100%.
So I hear the interview with Dan Quinn. I hear Micah Parsons hype him up not once, but twice. And I'm like, oh, dudes love playing for that guy. They like genuinely love playing for that guy. And I don't know if guys liked playing for really loved playing for Vic Fangio. I don't know if they love playing for Vance Joseph, but I think they'll like playing for Dan Quinn. And then I hear Aaron Rodgers talk about Nathaniel Hackett. I'm like, oh my God, that's the guy that I want. I want the guy that Aaron Rodgers is high on. And then I hear a local beat reporter from Los Angeles talk about Kevin O'Connell. I'm like, no. He's young. He's got the bright mind. He develops quarterbacks over there. That's the guy I want.
And you hear Stafford echoing the same thing too.
Yeah.
Stafford incredibly high on
O'Connell.
On O'Connell. You never heard those quotes about Adam Gase, did you?
No. Well, I mean, I guess Peyton Manning secretly vouched for him, but
Peyton Manning was on a mission to aid the Broncos by destroying other AFC teams.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Peyton Manning could actually tell you if he had a good offensive coordinator because he was the coordinator.
No, you're exactly right.
But yeah, that guy was pretty good because I'm fucking Peyton Manning.
That guy was good. He just left me alone.
Yeah.
Adam Gase was great at bringing me coffee while I designed the entire playbook.
Oh. So again, my point is we don't know. Like there's all these people on Twitter who are pretending like they have a huge preference about these guys.
Yeah.
They like none of them have relationships with people who have relationships with these guys. None of them have direct relationships with these coaches. They're just pulling bits of information like we are. We're guessing. All right. Now you can look at what Hackett did historically. You can say, like we've said, got the best out of Rodgers there. Did wonders with Blake Bortles for a year. You know, that shows maybe he can develop a quarterback. Maybe that's why we like him. Maybe Aaron Rodgers links to the Broncos because of him. We don't know.
We're trying to connect dots as best we can.
Yeah, it's like
there's a lot of straw grasping.
Yeah, and like when I listen to the only guy I haven't heard talk is Kevin O'Connell, but like when I listen to Dan Quinn, I like him. When I listen to Hackett, I like him. When I listened to Vic Fangio and Vance Joseph, I'm like, they're guys. Like, I'm going to trust that the hiring process is going right. I didn't like the Gary Kubiak hiring at the time. I was like, man, this feels desperate. We're just bringing back old Broncos coaches. But that was the one that fucking worked out. Kubiak and Wade Phillips turned out to be a genius move by Elway. Because Kubiak had the balls to bench Peyton Manning. So, like, we don't know. I didn't like that one. I liked Vic Fangio enough because I'm like, hey, maybe the defensive angle is correct. But what you said earlier is you got to swing for a QB, and I want one of the two coaches who I think will work on developing a young QB, if that's the way they go, or they're going to get the best out of the home run QB we swing for and bring. So if it's Rodgers, obviously Hackett makes a ton of sense, and maybe even get Getsy. But if it's O'Connell and you got Russell Wilson, I like the creative dynamic there. I like a guy making it work with Stafford, who is really talented, can just never get over the hump in Detroit. Russell Wilson, who's been great in Seattle, but they're like, oh my God, Russell Wilson late in the season. He's not very good anymore. Can't really win in the postseason. Like, let that fresh relationship do something. I don't know. Seems like it's probably a genius move.
Yeah. And I mean, who knows? Like we could release this podcast and the Broncos could be finalizing a deal with Nathaniel Hackett. Like right when this thing goes down. Dan Quinn is also interviewing with the New York Giants before he does his second interview with the Broncos. I think it was the Giants who also requested an interview with O'Connell. I know he is interviewing with the Vikings as well. So I think a lot of this too, it could come down to timing, and it could come down to maybe Quinn wants to go somewhere else too. Maybe he'd rather coach in New York, where you're not scheming up how to stop Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Derek Carr 6 times a year. You're trying to figure out Dak Prescott, Taylor Heineke, and Jalen Hurts, which is a
we'll call that the poor man's AFC West.
Yeah, and I mean, things could obviously change there too, but you know, we got to understand too that these guys have, they have desires of their own here. I do hope it is one of the two offensive coaches. The O'Connell thing is weird because you can't finalize things with him now.
Yeah,
because his team's still in the playoffs.
And even like his second interview is probably like a Zoom interview, a virtual interview. So that's a little odd for a second interview. The Giants are going to interview Brian Dable for a second time. And I think Quinn interviewed with them today. And so they did not make Quinn an offer. So he's still available. So the second interview with him and the Broncos should be good to go. Yeah, I was just double checking on Twitter.
And Quinn is also interviewing with who else? Do we know?
He interviewed in Jacksonville. Both Hackett and Quinn interviewed in Jacksonville.
I think Quinn turned down the Jags.
I'm sure everybody did. Well, come back to me when a real team doesn't give me a job. Let's see which all the other teams, which of the Vikings need a coach, the Bears need a coach, the freaking Saints might be in the coaching.
The Saints might need a coach, which then opens up a whole monkey wrench with what happens with Sean Payton.
Yeah,
where does he go? What if Sean Payton
goes to
resigned
Dallas
from the Saints today?
Yeah. Because apparently he's undecided about whether he wants to come back or not.
I understand. Yeah. I get that because they're like $150 billion over the cap right now and have been for the last 5 seasons.
But is part of that his own mess?
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it's it feels like you have a Madden franchise and you just you trade for everybody. Or no, you trade for 7 first-round picks. You hit on all of them. And then 4 years later, it's time to give them all second contracts. And you're like, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to start a new franchise. I don't like this one anymore.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me. But he would instantly become, obviously, candidate number 1. Although I feel like if he's leaving, he's got a destination already figured out.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. We'll wait and see with old Shawnee Payton. If you're making the decision, Nathaniel Hackett, Kevin O'Connell, down to those 2. Let's say Dan Quinn takes the Vikings job. Just put him in Minnesota.
Sure.
Which of those 2 are you going to go for? And obviously, Aaron Rodgers, don't know. That's uncertainty.
Yeah.
You got the same info. Well, I mean, maybe that's the other thing I wonder. If you're interviewing Hackett, are you you think Rodgers will come with you?
Yeah, you have to ask. Yeah.
Can you ask that? Can you? Is that tampering?
That's a good question. That could be tampering, but they don't enforce tampering very well.
Yeah. Could you be like,
any of the
are
sports.
There any fully immunized quarterbacks you think we could get in Denver? Draft or free agency?
Exactly. No, there's ways to massage it and go around it. Yeah, it's strange because Hackett was kind of our guy from the start, but now getting familiar with Kevin O'Connell and feeling like, okay, we got to knock this one out of the park. We can't just hit a single or a double. We got to knock this one out of the park. Kevin O'Connell is now the home run type of hire. Whereas Hackett feels like, you hit it into the middle of the fairway, but you're betting on a guy who's 50 years old, doesn't feel like he comes with the same sort of – he has a good pedigree, but not outstanding, whereas Kevin O'Connell, you feel like – you could be hitting him at his peak.
Yeah.
You could be buying low on what turns out to be an incredible investment down the road.
I kind of agree. And
so now now I do think is O'Connell.
You know what got me hard for O'Connell, Will?
Just looking at him, he's a good-looking guy.
Yeah, he ain't bad looking. It was learning
too hard on the eyes
that Brandon Staley tried to bring him to the Chargers, and Sean McVay blocked the move. He blocked the move, and apparently doesn't do that very often, but blocked the move. So if I don't know if that's a competitive thing. They're in the same city now, but like if that's a guy Sean McVay didn't want to lose, it's kind of a guy that I want.
It speaks volumes.
Sean McVay at the time was a risky hire. He was young and hot, and everybody spoke highly of him, but they didn't know if it was going to work out. It did really, really well.
Yeah.
The Broncos whiffed on Kyle Shanahan, and maybe Kevin O'Connell's the way to make up for it. So, I think with O'Connell or Hackett, I would feel so much better about drafting a quarterback too. Like if you can't land a free agent, because I do think those are still a bit of pipe dreams, right? There's so much speculation. We don't really know if a really good QB will be available, but honestly, trade me Gardner Minshew, draft your boy Carson Strong, and if we got a coach who I think is going to work with the quarterbacks, I like the young Kevin O'Connell. I like the guy who's going to bring a little bit of energy to the offense, and I like the guy who might be able to scheme up an offensive game plan to hang with the Chiefs. I would say the Chargers, but for whatever reason, the Broncos are always able to hang with the Chargers.
Yeah, and you have this incredible, incredible talent on defense in Patrick Surtain too. Yeah. You feel like, if Buffalo had Patrick Surtain last night, they win that game. They had their own kind of version of him in Tre'Davious White, who wasn't on the field.
Yeah, he tore his ACL this year. So
yeah, you factor him into that game. I'm not so sure Tyreek Hill scores a 64-yard touchdown in the last minute of the game.
Yeah.
Or if they are even at that point. But you feel like Denver has that defensive nucleus to the point where they do have an upper hand over a lot of the teams in the AFC, and they don't have to necessarily win 38-35, but you do need to score like 27 to win consistently. Yeah. So you do need to get better regardless. And you also get the feeling like, all right, Herbert's not going anywhere. Mahomes isn't going anywhere. Josh Allen's not going anywhere. Joe Burrow's not going anywhere. Okay, so if we miss on Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, who are, still priority number one, okay, maybe we can get our guy that's, not going to go anywhere for 15 years if we hit. And if you don't hit, you try it again next year. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, just keep fucking trying.
I don't understand.
Look, it's like
my thing is just keep like last night totally hammered it home. Go after Rodgers, go after Wilson. If those don't work, you draft a guy in the first and you draft a guy in the second. I don't care. Just keep drafting guys. The the Los Angeles Angels in the last MLB draft took all pitchers. They took a pitcher with every single pick. And time will tell whether that turns out to be the right strategy. But I appreciate that they're like, we are not a good pitching team. We're throwing all of our draft resources towards fixing this very problem. And when you have the most important position in sports unresolved, that's probably how you should be treating fixing that. Yeah. That dilemma to a lesser extent, because you can't just draft all quarterbacks because you're not going to figure out, which guy's the best, because you can't give reps to all of them. But you should take two.
Get two. Well, that'll be the big question. Like, will George Payton do it? He didn't do it last offseason. It's the only thing he didn't do well, in my opinion. But we'll save that discussion.
It sounds like, it's obviously the comeback there is that it sounds like he was instructed to get Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think Fangio told him, like, I want Teddy Bridgewater. Get me Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh, weird.
I don't think it was Peyton's, his call there.
Oh. Well, he was probably
and he didn't like Justin Fields, Mac Jones.
Yeah, no, that I get that. Like, I get that. I didn't understand the Teddy Bridgewater thing, but maybe it's just like, well, you can have him because I'm going to fire you at the end of the season anyway. So.
Yeah, have whatever you want.
Yeah, if you can make it work with Teddy, then you can keep your job, Vic.
Yeah, I'll give you Nathan Peterman if you want. Benjamin Albright just tweeted, if you're a Broncos fan expecting a hiring tonight or tomorrow, I'd change your expectations.
Oh.
Maybe that means O'Connell's the guy.
Maybe. I think it feels like this coaching cycle too right now, it seems like every team is willing to wait it out and take their time with each candidate. Usually it's like there's one or two hires that happen super quick, and then there's a team or two, finishing out the interviews, but that's fine. I hope they interview all three guys a second time and think about it. And it feels like both you and I are leaning towards O'Connell. And if that's the case, we'll be excited about him until, probably week 8 of next football season.
We've become victims of recency bias, and that's what makes a good podcast.
Yep. That's
keeping things fresh.
Freaking Tom Brady in the playoffs. Also, O'Connell, Von Miller will be familiar with. If Von wants to cut. How kind of okay, so they trade Von Miller in the middle of the season. Like, it feels like the right move. You got something for Von. There was no guarantee he'd come back after this season. But he's wrecking teams in the playoffs now. One of the best stretches by any edge rusher. Could the Broncos maybe have used that for the rest of the season? If you want to criticize,
I'd say so.
That, watching Von Miller play really well, it's like, shit, we could have had that all season. I was happy for Von to go to a contender because I think none of us believed that the Broncos would get to the postseason or far into the postseason. Maybe he comes back and George Payton looks smart there. But damn, we gave the Rams a really good playmaker. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, and they paid a premium price for it. So you don't feel like it's you feel like it's more of a fair deal on both sides. It looked like the Broncos kind of fleeced them for a second, and now you're like, oh no, they're right.
Yeah, it'll depend if that draft capital helps them acquire quarterback. And then it all plays out to plan. But we'll see. Anyway,
and he comes back.
And give it to me all.
Come on.
I will.
Man. We've got quite the off season. Off season we're looking at.
We will be back Wednesday with our picks, and then maybe late in the week with the Broncos coaching hire. And until then, good night.
John Elway plays his entire career without an ACL.
And good luck, Joe.